Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everyone. This is really a game changer in making your life a lot easier, a lot more fulfilling. It's part of self-care under the umbrella of that topic. And we're going to talk today about boundaries. What are they? What boundaries have you set for yourself and others? And why does it work well for us? She helps people with this and so much more all the time as a certified life coach and also a Clarity Catalyst instructor. Ghada, Elias joins us here on the program. How you doing?
Good. How are you, Steve?
I always wonder if I'm saying your first name correctly.
You're not, but that's okay.
Is it Ghada?
It is the American way, but it's fine. It's been butchered so many times. It doesn't really. It's like, well, whatever.
If there's a roll of the tongue and saying it properly, I'm going to mess it up anyway. So
you will. It comes from your throat. The first letter. It's from the throat. Yeah. So it's okay.
Ghada. I'm never going to get it. But wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
And the boundaries is so important. And you don't realize it until you realize it. How do you define boundaries?
I kind of like to visualize it as a line that you draw for yourself first and then for others. And it starts with yourself. Because if you don't know how to draw it for yourself, you don't know how to draw it for others. It's a visual line. So this is where I stop.
Now I'm trying to put this into perspective. If you draw it for yourself, aren't you drawing your boundaries because of others?
I am. And I'm also drawing it because of me. Because when I don't have the boundaries that I set for myself, then I am allowing myself to do things for others that's going to affect me negatively. Like, twist it. If you twist it around, when I set it for myself, I'm actually extending it to the others. Does that make sense? Am I clear, kind of?
How about some examples? Because I'm processing in my mind what I know what my boundaries are for others. And I could give a really easy example there. But a boundary for myself, I'm not really sure what that is.
A boundary for myself.
And you go hypothetical. It doesn't have to be real.
Yeah, no. I'm going whether it's real or hypothetical. So I've decided that my boundary when it comes to helping others, it doesn't matter who it is. It could be even my daughter. Okay, even the closest people to us. If it's going to be interfering with something that I have to do in my life, then I can say either I cannot do it because I know you can do it and you're just putting this on me because I'm your mom, or I can say I will do it, but not right now.
So
this is my boundary, but I did not. So boundaries with others, usually it is communicated.
Okay. So give an example what one might be boundary with others.
Communication with others. Same thing. I'm going to use my kids. My daughter, I would be having a conversation with my daughter, and she knows if she starts to go a different route and like higher her voice, then I'm going to say, I'm stepping away because this is where I draw the line. Yes. There is a respect. Same thing with others, especially in relationships. Communication is very important in boundaries with relationships. But as far as volunteering, as far as people asking you for a favor, and I'm someone that I cannot say no to anyone, even if it conveniences me. And it really started at one time when my sister called and asked me to make something food for her son, which I usually say, yes, absolutely. That day, I just paused and said, I have so much on my plate. I cannot do it. And I didn't even say I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was like, and she was okay. The
I, I,
pro
I totally get what you're saying, and I've learned this. No is a
is a
complete sentence.
sentence. Absolutely.
You don't
No,
have to give an excuse. We
no.
always, we feel like we're letting somebody down. Oh, well, I can't do it because blah, 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 blah. No, I'm sorry, I can't do it right now. I want to, but I can't. Done.
Period.
Finished.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. And the word no to some people is hard to say because they feel it's such a negative thing.
right. So you try
And
to pad it or temper it with your
yes,
excuse.
yes. And no is actually a good word.
Mm,
And yes can be a negative word. It
mm.
depends how you use it. And that's where the
Yes.
boundary comes in.
As a matter of fact, there's a poll out very recently that says if you reply to somebody with a simple word in a text,
Mhm.
it can be perceived as a very negative word, and the word is sure. So if you ask somebody, or somebody asks you, "Hey, can you help me move on Saturday? I really need your help." Sure, that's your reply. You could mean it as a very positive, "Yeah, sure, I'll be there, no problem," or it could be like, "Sure,
Sure.
yeah, I'll do it. I'll be there." Great.
That's the problem with texting. That's the problem with texting
Yeah.
because communication
It's lost.
it's
Gets lost.
it's lost in texting because you don't have the face, you don't see the expression, you don't
Hmm.
hear the tone.
Right.
Yes, that's where communication gets lost
Lost in
and
translation.
in translation. Yes,
Yeah. And
misinterpreted.
and that word sure in a text reply, you can completely change the perception of it. Even though you might have meant it in a very
Mhm.
positive way. Sure, I'll help you. Add an exclamation point. Now it's a game changer. That's a sure.
Sure. Yes. Yes. And you know what? Another thing, it also depends on your culture. Because for
Mm,
me, here's an example. For me, saying bye in a text, that's just something we say. But I found that for other cultures, it means like you're not going to talk to them anymore. I'm like, that's interesting.
tell me that
Which
again. In your culture, when you type
in
what?
my culture, if I'm talking to someone and I ended it like it's a new friend, okay, and I ended the conversation with bye, it was perceived as in I'm not going to talk again, I'm not going to reach out again. And to me,
Mm,
that's just what we say, bye.
yeah. Well, what do you
Is
do at
it
the end of a phone conversation?
we say bye,
Right. But
but
in a
see
text.
text
Interesting.
different. Yes.
Hmm.
So
And you know what's interesting too? I find in other cultures, they will say not just bye for now. So it's almost releasing of the finite feel of the word bye.
bye.
Like go
That
away, bye. Like bye for now. It's so
yeah, to me
interesting.
I would be like, oh, okay, so
Mhm.
like get rid
Yep.
of me.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good riddance.
Yes. Yeah. So going back to boundaries, we kind of like um, we drift,
We
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 drift,
we digressed
we
in
die,
here a
die.
second. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah. No problem. But
yeah.
it's all
So
about communication, really. Communicating your boundaries, and we
that's
communicated
it.
some other stuff here.
And when what's more important is when you communicate it to yourself is actually writing it down.
Mm.
And you start with one boundary at a time. So I started setting boundaries. I've been setting boundaries for like others, but I started with myself. So one boundary, and maybe some people would call it something else. To me, it's a boundary because I am working on my self-control. So I am putting boundaries for myself. Is when I wake up, that first half hour, I don't touch my phone. My phone is next to
Mm.
me, and I make it and I leave it there on purpose. I don't look at it, I don't touch it. I just do my morning routine and then I get up. Once I have my coffee ready, that's when I allow myself to look at my phone.
Mm.
That is my boundary for my morning mental relaxation.
I would see the personal boundary based on what you're saying for me, and this came in the late spring. I left here late afternoon, like 5 something, and I had a meeting at 7:30 or 8. And I said, I'm going to leave here, the little airport right around the corner, a small one. And I got something to eat. And I just went into the airport and just on the field, it's just nice breeze coming in and just the angle of the sun was beautiful. Maybe see a plane come down and I'm eating my dinner and just like, this is great. And then my phone rings and it was somebody who I know. And usually there's they've got stuff going on and I need to help them through it. And it's, it takes away from you. And I answered the phone. I knew what to expect. Now I've just eaten into my eating hour and hung up. And I'll never forget. I see the phone on the dashboard and my food on the dashboard right now at that moment. And I said to myself, when I'm doing my own thing, I will never pick up the phone ever again. I'm just not going to do it unless, somebody texts me,
Yeah.
emergency or whatever. I'm just, that's my time. It's sort of like what you just said when you wake up first thing in the morning, when you set aside your you time. That's it. There's not going there.
And that's really important because it starts with those little things. And then you look at something else, you say, okay, well, I'm going to do it with this. And once you start, it does expand to the outside. Then because you value yourself.
Yes.
You care about yourself.
Yes.
Everybody, we're all important. And we do want to be kind and respectful, but there's a line where we stop when it does affect us. So if it's something that is going to drain us, we can say no, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's something that brings us happiness, even if it's inconvenience, like to me, volunteering I love it. It gives me so much joy. So sometimes, even if it's inconvenience, I still want to volunteer because it gives me joy. And that's okay if I say yes, so it depends really on the situation. But the biggest thing is communication with your boundaries.
The biggest thing is communication.
Yes.
And I'll share with you. I was in a relationship recently ended, number of different things going on there. There was one situation where I would never know what I'm doing with this person on the weekend. And that's when we, would get together, do fun stuff. It was all great. But it would be earlier in the week. And I'd say, can you tell me what day you're free? Like what day you want to do something? Just let me know. I just want to, loosely plan things out, know what I'm doing. Monday would go by, Tuesday would go by, Wednesday. What are we doing on the weekend? Thursday. I find out like Friday afternoon, whether, and usually we were getting together anyway.
Yeah.
But I would continually ask, can you please just tell me? It's not like I'm a control freak at all, not like an overthinker planner. I just want to know what's going on. And that was I tried to communicate that. And that kind of what my boundary. I just need to know. And whatever their issue was, didn't know, couldn't commit, whatever it was, but it was frustrating. And it was just one aspect of the frustration. But that was I don't think it's a lot to ask. Just let me know what's going on.
No, but that's important in a relationship.
Yeah.
This is where like when people are in a relationship, there's got to be like things that you set that this is how you are and this is what you would like for you to be able to continue in a relaxed way, in a joyful way, in that in that relationship.
Yeah.
So that would be a bother to a lot of people who just like to know so they can plan their day. And our time is valuable. So if I'm not doing this, I need to plan it for something else. Maybe I want to spend time with my kids. If I'm not doing anything. So don't leave me until the last minute to tell me what we're doing.
There's only 52 weekends out of the year.
Exactly.
And only some of them are beautifully sunny, warm weekends where I am.
Yes.
Same with you. So you want to maximize them. But yeah, that was one of I tried to set that boundary, and right to the end of the relationship, it was never, I guess the word is respected. And I don't think it was asking too much. And I get, some things come up, like I'm not really sure what's going on, but sure. But at least say that, communicate it.
It's communication. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's communication. And some people, it's hard for them if they're not used to it. If they don't have that, if they didn't have that in their life, or they're afraid if they set an expectation not to be able to make it, and then now they have to figure out, okay, how do I change those plans? Is this going to cause a problem? I'd rather not set the plans than have to change it later on. So there's a lot that has to do with it, but then it goes down to communication and being honest and just, okay, that life is life.
And I guess it comes down to respecting yourself and standing up for yourself, because so many of us kind of, I don't want to rock the boat, so I'm not going to. But when you take that stance, like for you, first thing in the morning, maybe you verbalize it. Love you. Don't bother me from 7 till 7:30. I usually wake up around 7. I'm going hypothetical here, but that's my time. I'm just taking my moments. And that's it. Unless it's an emergency, please don't. Thank you so much. That's it.
Am I saying that to my phone? Because it's only my phone.
Oh, well, really? I'm just saying that's how you might set your boundary with your daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I'm a single mom.
I'm a single dad.
There you go. So it's really, I have my life set. I do take time for my friends and people, but yes, I have my life set, and I worked hard to get it where I am today, whether it's my son or my daughter. But that took me becoming a life coach, which had helped me turn things around in my life and helped actually my kids. I'm a better mom for them.
What was your biggest challenge in setting boundaries, in learning that whole process?
Letting go of the guilt that I will not be accepted or loved if I say no. That's a huge thing for everybody. That's why that's
universal. And it also, I'm sure, goes back to us feeling that we're not worthy enough. And we always want to be, I'm trying to think the best way to describe this, valuable. You always want to look valuable to somebody. So can you help me move on Saturday? I really need your help. Well, you have other plans. You want to say no, but you also don't want them to feel that you don't care, because you also want them around in your life.
Yes.
And you have a fear of, well, if I say no, they might, maybe they won't be there when I need them. Yeah.
But you know what? Then you learn, when you work on yourself and you value yourself and you respect yourself, that even saying no to people, that doesn't mean they're going to walk away from you. Because those are the people that, go ahead.
I know you're going to go ahead.
Go ahead.
If they walk away, they shouldn't be in your life. They walk away.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because then they're in your life because they want something from you.
Yeah.
They don't value you as their friend, their family member, or just an acquaintance. Because sometimes you can get a request for an acquaintance and you can say no to them, but then when you ask them for something, they might turn back and say, okay, we'll help you. And that's just the kindness that's in a human being. It has nothing to do with who that person is. It's what's in their heart.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes you have to speak up. Like I do a lot for my friends. If I have something to give them, I do. Let's say, I get tickets to a show or whatever, and I'm happy to do it. It's fun. We all hang out together. And it was a few weeks ago, a couple of friends, and I'm in a group with a bunch, right? And they went somewhere off. I'm on the island, so they went, upstate or whatever. And they didn't ask me, and so I wrote back, "Hey, no invite, just being fun." And they got it. And they said, "Well, we knew that you had plans that weekend, or we thought you did, so we didn't ask." But it was almost me just like throwing it out there, like it kind of has to work both ways. I make you part of my life. Let's, vice versa. But when you get to that point where you're close enough with somebody where you can say stuff like that, and it's not taken as a, whoa, okay. you know?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And
How do you navigate if there's pushback on your boundaries? You know, you set a boundary with somebody and either they're not adhering to it or um, they don't agree with it. Is that the writing on the wall for the relationship? If they're not going to respect my boundaries, then maybe they belong over here.
that depends on who you're talking about, because to every person it's a different boundary. It's a different way of approaching a boundary. Okay. To be specific, that's too general, too universal. So to be specific, let's say a partner.
Sure.
Okay, a partner that's not respecting your boundary, that's a red flag right there. So how
Yeah.
many red flags do you have in that relationship? Do you have 4 or 5 red flags where you can talk about it, come to an understanding, come to a rule, come to something? And boundaries is like a habit. It doesn't just it it doesn't happen from the first time. It takes practice. It takes a lot of practice, then becomes a habit.
Mm.
If your red flags are more than 5, but like I would say up to 10, then you better really think about that relationship. So it's
I
really being aware.
I did exactly what you're saying in that relationship I referred to.
Yeah.
And that was a couple of years. And I call it the scale of life. So on a scale, kind of weighs out. And
Yes.
the scale went like that. Once once I wrote it down, and I already knew it, but I wrote it down
Yes.
and there's a lot of wonderful aspects that were there, but there were also a number of concerning red flags. Um, and kind of went like that. And that was writing it down gave the
Good.
clarity of, yeah, okay, I'm saying it's staring me in the face. I can't ignore it.
It's like in marriage. There's not a perfect marriage. All marriages have their ups and downs,
For sure.
but it goes back to the scale. So if your good days are like they're heavy enough, you have a lot, that when you have your bad days, you can always take from the good and add it to the bad, and it balances itself.
Absolutely.
But when the negative is so high that and the positive is so low, it's not balanced. There's nothing to take to offset the negative.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
where
And it
things.
gets to a point where how much are you going to compromise yourself?
Yes.
You care about somebody, you bend. It's okay. Like a tree
You're
sways.
supposed to. You're supposed to.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But sometimes,
But then,
the tree snaps.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can't just keep on bending and bending. 2 people have to bend.
Yeah. And it does take
So,
two. Like you said, it's
absolutely.
never one-sided. Even when a relationship doesn't work out, it goes both
It's
ways.
good both ways.
But
Yes.
sometimes, and I'm just hypothetically saying this, that it can be somebody does something horrible over here, where over here somebody, well, they were okay, but it could have been a little bit better, but this outweighs it, and then it's time for a reevaluation of the relationship, I would think.
Yeah. And a lot
Yeah.
of times we give excuses.
Mm,
That's that. No, they're not this way. They're going to change. No, we
no,
can't change anyone.
no, no.
No.
And final thought, I feel, love your feedback on this.
Yeah.
Everybody tells you who they are in the beginning. If you watch and listen, they're what they are. Sometimes we ignore it because let's say, it's a new relationship, partnership, you're happy, you're bliss and everything. They
Yes.
already told you. You got to listen.
You got to listen. Yes. And another thing I say, if you can deal with their negative side, because we all have it, we all have the flaws. Okay. If you can
Mhm.
deal with that, then yes, continue, because that's going to come out. If you know how to communicate those bad days, or you see how this person snaps, and you're like, okay, I can deal with
For
this,
sure.
then continue
Mm.
and give it a chance.
Continue unless
That's
it compromises your boundaries.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That is, yes, absolutely.
Good talk
Yep.
today.
Thank you. Same here.
This is what you do. You help
This
people
is what-
along, realize things. I'm just going to say a lot of what we're talking about today
Mhm.
took me multiple people, practitioners like yourself, to figure it out. You're one person and get it done. Like the whole thing, write down the pros and the cons. It sounds
It's, yes,
ridiculous, but until somebody told me to do that, like yourself, I was like, oh, wow.
it works.
Oh, look at that. It
Yes.
works.
Yes.
That's just one little piece of the life coaching you provide. And also being an instructor as it's Clarity Catalyst, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
How do we find you?
SavorYourSeasons.com, or you can email me at Ghada@SavorYourSeasons.com. And seasons with an S.
And your name is spelled Ghada.
Correct.
I can spell it. I can't say it. But I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on that. Thank you so much for today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll catch up soon. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.